friends, it's Mrs. McCarver, and it's time for today's reading lesson. Now, this week we have been focused on reading some nonfiction books, and we've been thinking about the key details, the new information we're learning, and the main topic of what our book is mostly about. And I realized something. The more that I read my nonfiction books and think about the pictures and the words and what I'm learning, the more the the more I know. I've learned so much. I read this book about butterflies, and now I feel like I am an expert about butterflies. I've learned so much. I could teach you all about butterflies. Let me teach you something. Well, these little buggy things fly around and they have some body parts, and then they come out of this little round thing, and then they crawl around for a while, and then they get like different sizes and colors. And do I sound like an expert right now? I think you're shaking your head no, or possibly even giving me a thumbs down. You're right. I was not doing a very good job of explaining everything that I have been learning about butterflies. I am an expert, and an expert uses special words sometimes when they know a lot about a topic. We might even say they know expert words. I called a butterfly that little flyy thing. Does that sound like an expert? No. If I'm going to talk about this little animal that flies around, I'm going to use the expert word, which is butterfly. So I want to make sure that when I'm talking about a topic, I use the expert words or the real words that I have learned or figured out. For example, I've been learning about butterflies from my book. Here are some of the expert words I've learned to use. First of all, I can use the word butterfly. This insect is called a butterfly. I've also learned to use the word, earlier I said come out of this little ball thing. I'm not going to call this just a little ball thing. Let's use the expert word. It's an egg. This is a butterfly egg. Okay? Then, you know what I said? I think I did use this one for the next word. It was caterpillar. I'm not just going to say this little worm thing. I'm going to use my expert word, caterpillar. Now, maybe I was talking about, when the egg breaks and the caterpillar crawls out. Does that sound like expert? No, but in my book, I did find an expert word, hatches. Then the egg hatches. So when I talk about an animal or an insect coming out of its egg, I want to use the expert word, hatches. The egg hatches and a caterpillar comes out. Oh, this is the biggest expert word I learned in this book. Remember, we got to this part and the caterpillar started to change, and I was calling this like a shell, kind of a hard shell, but there's an expert word for that. Read this. It says, now it's a pupa. That is an expert word. Inside here is a pupa. I learned that from this book. And now when I talk about that stage of a butterfly or caterpillar's life, I can use the expert word. So today I want you, when you're reading your nonfiction books, to be on the lookout for expert words. Let me give you another example. Here's one more example. I have this other book about where animals live. And sometimes our expert words are really fancy words. For example, this page says, where do rabbits live? They live in burrows. You might have thought this was just a hole, but there is an expert word here, burrow. So now when I'm talking about where an animal lives, where a rabbit lives, I will say, a rabbit lives in a hole in the ground called a burrow. So sometimes they are kind of new or fancy words, but other times they're just very specific words. For example, this page says, where do fish live? And they say they live in the, now, I could say water, but there's lots of water. There's oceans, rivers, bathtubs, toilet bowls, Streams? All kinds of water. Do fish live in all those places? This book uses a specific word. It says they live in the ocean. So when I'm talking about where fish live, I might use a very specific word, ocean. Even though you might have already known that word, it's still an expert word because it's giving you more information about where fish can live. So today, when you're reading, I want you to be on the lookout for any expert words you might learn or see in your book. A little hint, if there's a place that the author labeled, that's a good clue that that's an expert word and you should try to use it. Later on, I'm going to ask you to send me a video showing or telling me about an expert word you would use to describe a topic.